By the mid-21st century, half of mankind has been wiped out by an epidemic of organ failures, and megacorporation GeneCo thrived from the chaos by supplying organ transplants to willing consumers. A sheltered, chronically ill girl seeks to find a cure for her disease, but is shocked to discover that everything comes at a cost. In the year 2056, an organ failure epidemic wiped out almost half of the human population. Out of the chaos arose a mega conglomerate called GeneCo that supplies organ transplants on a payment plan. The CEO of GeneCo, Roddy Largo, and his family became the wealthiest people in the world. Because of the service accessibility, surgery became a fashion statement, and the company began developing the painkiller Zydrate to ease surgery pain. Due to the addictive properties of the substance, grave robbers also began making their own version of the drug for sale on the black market, catering to the masses that can't afford the name brand. Roddy Largo then lobbies a bill that makes all organ repossession legal, allowing GeneCo to send the RepoMan, a skilled assassin, to reclaim organs from people who missed their payments. One day, a doctor arrives at Roddy's office to inform him that he's terminally ill. Roddy is angered by the news, so one of his bodyguards shoots the doctor. He leaves and proclaims that he won't pass down his megacorporation to any of his children. In the cemetery, Shilo Wallace visits the mausoleum of her late mother, Marnie Wallace. She spots a glowing insect and chases it out onto the graveyard. Shilo then watches in horror as grave robber procures Zydrate from the corpses. Suddenly, he gives away his position to the military patrolling the area. As he runs away, Shilo joins him and they hide in the catacombs where grave robber extracts more Zydrate. Grave robber encourages her to use Zydrate to cure her illness, but she vehemently refuses. Shilo is then forcibly captured by the Gene Cops while Roddy watches her through the security feed. She loses consciousness just as a RepoMan arrives to admonish the officers who caught her. Hours later, Shilo awakens in her bed and finds her doctor father, Nathan, checking her vitals. She tries to tell him what she saw in the graveyard, but Nathan denies her claims, insisting her delusions were from missing her medications. Shilo is then revealed to have a rare blood disease she inherited from her mother. Her overprotective father requires her to stay indoors at all times in fear of losing her as well. After giving Shilo her meds, Nathan leaves and bolts her door shut. With nothing else to do, Shilo tries to keep herself busy, but her unfortunate condition makes her feel trapped, as she longs to see the outside world. Meanwhile, Nathan reminisces how happy his life was with the expectant Marnie 17 years ago. Unfortunately, Marnie fell ill, and Nathan tried to cure her himself, but she worsened after taking the medication he formulated. With no other choice, Nathan decided to save Shilo by performing a C-section on his dying wife. Consumed by guilt, Nathan confides to Marty's portraits that he became GeneCo's head RepoMan after her death. He proceeds to repossess one of the organs of a client he's bound in the secret basement. At the GeneCo headquarters, Roddy's children, Luigi, Pavi, and Amber Sweet, fight amongst themselves about who will inherit the company following their father's passing. Luigi asserts that he'll be the next CEO since he's the smartest of the three, but Pavi argues he's the most dashing and can steal everyone's hearts. Amber leaves her brothers to their argument to see their father. Later, Shilo receives a call from Roddy, who promises to help her find a cure for her disease and instructs her to meet him at Marnie's tomb. While Roddy climbs into his car, he remembers that 17 years ago he and Marnie were lovers, but she ultimately left him to marry Nathan, breaking Roddy's heart. When he heard of Marnie's sickness, he secretly snuck into Nathan's lab and poisoned her medication to get even with her. He then blackmailed Nathan to become his head RepoMan, lest they arrest him. Roddy is still against naming his children his heirs, claiming they're all ingrates and unworthy of his riches. He even considered Nathan his heir at one point, but decided against it when Marnie married him. Roddy arrives at the cemetery where his bodyguards forcibly drag Shilo out of Marnie's mausoleum and into his car. He tells Shilo he has an antidote for her sickness at GeneCo's fair and asks her to come with him, and he'll even introduce her to Blind Mag, the opera star. She refuses, reasoning Nathan wouldn't allow her to go, but Roddy slyly tells her to keep it a secret, making Shilo reconsider his offer. Meanwhile, Nathan is at his secret basement claiming another client's organs. He complains that it's a thankless job, but he does it anyway since nobody else will. After reclaiming the organs, Nathan houses down his clothes and watches Blind Mag perform on television. Somewhere in the fair, the Largo siblings are bickering until their father arrives to stop them. They indignantly leave, and Roddy introduces Shilo to Blind Mag, an opera singer who used to be Marnie's best friend. Due to Marnie's relationship with Roddy, he decided to give the blind woman surgically enhanced eyes at the cost of an indefinite contract. Roddy begs her to stay under his employ, but she declines and promises to perform one last time at the fair. Shilo is then shoved by one of the guards into an empty tent and begins to panic about getting home. Elsewhere, Roddy gives Nathan a new assignment, so he sets about reclaiming organs, when he suddenly gets a notification for Shilo's medicine. He calls to remind her of the time when he hears loud noises on her end and begins to suspect that Shilo isn't at home. Shilo lies that the noise is coming from outside her window. She hears Nathan's victim crying, but Nathan bluffs and adds that he should be heading home soon to attend to her. Anxious, Shilo takes her meds just as Grave Robber pops into the tent and helps her escape. Meanwhile, Roddy holds a press conference about Zydrate abuse and asks his daughter to take over for him. However, Amber doesn't appear on stage, angering Roddy as it further cements rumors of Amber's surgery addiction. Grave Robber and Shilo flee from the fairgrounds and run into several of his Zydrate-dependent customers, including Amber, who needs the substance to help ease the surgery pain. As Grave Robber injects the painkiller into Amber, Shilo hears him whistling and notes that it's Mag's song. The mention of the opera singer's name angers Amber, who accuses Shilo of insinuating that she can't sing as well as Mag. She then divulges that Mag's eyes are set for repossession since her contract states that if she ever resigns, GeneCo will take her eyes back. Sirens sound, signaling the GeneCop's arrival, and the people quickly disperse. Shilo and the Grave Robber jump onto the back of a garbage truck and flee from the scene while the officers take Amber back to her father. Soon, the garbage truck passes Shilo's house and she disembarks. She quickly returns to her room minutes before Nathan arrives and pretends to be asleep when he goes to check on her. Later, Nathan reports to Roddy for his next assignment, perplexed why Roddy didn't just tell him over the phone. Roddy then orders him to repossess Mag's eyes, but Nathan refuses, knowing Mag was his late wife's best friend. Roddy threatens to inform Shilo about the nature of Marnie's death, as well as his secret identity as the RepoMan. Left with no choice, Nathan accepts the job. Sensing his reluctance, the Largo family gives him a client to repossess first, to remind him why he's the best at his job. After stabbing the client, Nathan realizes he can't go through repossessing Mag's eyes, and asks Roddy to find someone else for the task. As Nathan walks away, an enraged Roddy vows to have Nathan killed. Later that night, Mag visits Shilo and tells her that she was shocked to see her alive. Nathan had told her his daughter died with Marnie, and reveals she's Shilo's godmother. However, Shilo is hesitant to let her in, so Mag projects an image of Marnie from her eyes. Frightened, Shilo runs to the stairs, allowing Mag to come in. Shilo warns that her father doesn't allow her to have visitors, but Mag tells her that she should still be able to live her life. Seconds later, Nathan arrives and Mag berates him for lying about Shilo's death and keeping her locked up in the house. Shilo begs him to let her godmother hide in their house, but Nathan forces Mag out. Nathan drags Shilo to her room and shows him a magazine article stating Mag's imminent doom. She begs him again to let her inside and protect her, but her father refuses. An infuriated Shilo slams the door on him, and he walks back in to say that she should accept Mag's fate because she's still too young to do anything about it. Shilo defiantly tells Nathan that he can't control her anymore, nor stop her from rescuing her godmother. Nathan slaps her in his fury, knocking her to the ground. A shocked Shilo looks at him aghast, but suddenly collapses from her illness. At GeneCo, Amber blames Roddy for her botched surgery. Furious, her father reminds her that all he ever did was give her the best life, yet all she's proven is to be unworthy of inheriting his fortune. Roddy finally sees his daughter's mutilated face, and is so taken aback by her appearance that he offers to have his surgeons operate on her immediately so she can sing later that evening. When his daughter leaves, Roddy renounces all of his children as potential heirs and claims Shilo to be the sole beneficiary to his entire fortune. Meanwhile, Nathan is attending to an unconscious Shilo when he hears Roddy's message to come to the opera. Furious, he decides to take matters into his own hands. When his daughter awakens and asks him about Mag, he tries to brush it off, claiming she imagined the whole thing. When Nathan heads down to his secret lair, he's ambushed by GeneCop's Roddy scent. However, he quickly disposes of them and rushes to Shilo's room, horrified to discover she's disappeared. An outraged Nathan vows to exact revenge on Roddy, who he believes abducted his daughter. However, unbeknownst to Nathan, Shilo snuck into Roddy's car earlier, where he instructed her to change into Marnie's old dress. Meanwhile, Mag readies herself for her final performance and lays a rose at Marnie's mausoleum. Before she gets a new face transplant, Amber goes to Grave Robber for a Zydrate shot, while her family prepares for the opera. Before the start of the show, people cheer for GeneCo and thank them for their new organs, which excites the crowd for the Largo family's entrance. Shilo then arrives at the theater's private box, where a video recording of Roddy informs her that he used her as bait for the RepoMan. Shilo attempts to escape, but she's locked in. Roddy then informs her that she'll give her the cure if she helps him capture RepoMan. As Mag's opening act, Amber makes her stage debut, but her face transplant falls off during her performance, causing the crowd to jeer at her. Frustrated, she leaves the stage in tears. Mag then takes the stage and performs her final song. When she's about to finish, she strays from the act's grand finale and gouges out her eyes with her long nails in defiance of the Largo family. Irate, Roddy slashes the rope suspending Mag in the air, and she's impaled on a fence below. He then assures the mortified audience that Mag's death was part of the show and tells them to stay in their seats. Moments later, Nathan arrives at the opera and approaches a woman in black slumped on a chair. Shilo smacks his head with a shovel, knocking his mask off, and she's shocked to discover that her father is the RepoMan. Betrayed, she yells at him for lying about his profession. When Shilo finds out from the projection that Mag has died, she finally decides to cut off all ties with her father. A seething Nathan blames Roddy for all his troubles and vows to destroy everything in his path. He goes on stage to attack Roddy, but Luigi manages to slash his leg first, disabling him. Shilo then appears to demand the cure from Roddy, but Nathan tries to intervene, resulting in him getting electrocuted by the Largo brothers. Roddy opens the curtains and announces his impending death to the crowd. He informs them that Nathan killed Marnie and he has been poisoning Shilo's medication to shield her from the outside world, causing the overwhelmed Shilo to faint. Moments later, she awakens, and Roddy offers to give his entire fortune to her if she ends her father's life. However, Shilo refuses, grabs the gun from him, and says Roddy will only use her just like he used her father. Roddy insists that Nathan deserves to die for everything he's done, and demands she shoots him. Nathan apologizes to Shilo and tells her to live her life. However, the stage lights suddenly shut off, and Roddy uses this chance to shoot Nathan. With his dying breath, Roddy disowns all of his children and makes it known that GeneCo will crumble without him. Roddy then falls dead on the floor, shocking the crowd. As Shilo holds her dying father in her arms, she tells him how much she loves him and that she won't leave his side. However, Nathan tells her to go and to change the world for him. As he dies, Shilo sobs, while a tearful audience watches. She realizes that her father's actions do not define her and is now free to make her own future. Shilo then flees, leaving GeneCo with no heir, so Amber decides to inherit the mega corporation instead, and auctions off her fallen face to charity as a symbol of GeneCo's commitment to change. Luigi took out the top 3 bidders for his sister's face, allowing Pavi to win the auction and wear Amber's face with pride.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.